now we are. Welcome. It's a big pleasure. Thanks, Yvonne, for the invitation. Thanks, ScrumTrek. It's a big pleasure. In our days, it's not usual, being abroad in Russia from Europe. But I have a story to tell, and it's actually not one story, it's 8 stories, so no boring theory. Expect some exciting next stage of business agility. Get some inspiration, and I will also share with you 3 guiding questions that you can take home to, to take your own journey on the next level. I would like to start with something small, something that we have in our pockets and use it every day. And if we don't have it, then, our life will be kind of get out of bounds. And during the Corona crisis, this even led to a disaster in the automotive industry. So I'm talking about semiconductors, computer chips, and just in the US, but generally speaking, in all the automotive industry, this was the case. Just in the US, the biggest 2 car manufacturers, GM and Ford, they had to put 300,000 cars on park. So now if you think about Agile and the real purpose of Agile, it's fast feedback and delivering value. So they were no more able to deliver value. It's a disaster for the company from an Agile perspective anyways. Now, just that you get a little bit into the topic, what means across companies. So no organization, almost no organization, is an island for itself. So they have an ecosystem of partners, suppliers, sometimes we even collaborate with our competitors. And to stay with the example of automotive, the automotive companies, they're mainly design and assembly companies. I recently read an interview with the CEO of Volkswagen, and he said something really, it shocked me. We do not own a single line of code. Everything is outsourced to our partners. Now, can you imagine they won't now go into their journey into having, self-driving cars, and so they can't. They, again, need to keep that outsourced, such a strategic part. Now, semiconductors or computer chips, this is a Ford Focus, a very standard car, nothing fancy, no computers. It has more than 3,000 chips, just that you get a little bit of an idea. Now, can you imagine the more advanced EVs and so forth, they have much more of those. So it was a disaster for the car manufacturers, but again, some did better. And why? Why was that? Tesla, they have a very huge vertical integration, means they do not have the supply chain or so much outsourced like the others, their competitors. But even Tesla does not produce their own computer chips. So what was the reason why Tesla has less of a struggle during the pandemic in this supply chain disruption? Well, the reason was in the traditional car manufacturers companies, there was this lean thinking. Our predictions show that the market will go down. So we have to stop the orders. Everything, we don't have an inventory. So we have everything just in time. And it was very much cost-focused, right? Tesla never stopped their orders. They still had struggles, but they never stopped it because that's not so much of an inventory, computer chips. But on the other hand, it still was a challenge because then the orders were canceled, and what did the computer chip manufacturers? They started to to take other orders, like for webcams and other stuff. So the pipeline was full. So as the manufacturers realized, oh, we have done a mistake, the computer chip manufacturer said, well, our pipeline is full, you need to wait another 6 months. And that was then the consequence. As a consequence, they needed to put their cars on park. Now, Tesla somehow also had this struggle with some very advanced computer chips. But what they did, instead of the traditional manufacturers, they have a single source strategy, this vendor, this specific chip, we have designed it, and if it's not that chip, you're screwed. Now, Tesla has more of a outcome-based specification. In Agile, user story, for example, something like that. And so that gave them the flexibility to source different computer chips that resolved the purpose. And at the same time, they were as agile enough to integrate those other products, and sometimes they even had to rewrite the operating system. So that's how agile Tesla was in comparison to Ford and the other car manufacturers. So that's just a little example. Now, where are we in the agile space? So currently, you know, I think 20 years ago now, the Agile Manifesto turned 20 years. Scrum, the first sprint we just celebrated last autumn, 30 years. Everything was evolving out of the team level, team agility. And currently we have these two movements. One is my personal agility, my behaviors, leadership, and everything. And then the other, how can that work at scale in our organization? Now we are introducing the next big thing, and that is partner ecosystem agility. So beyond the supply chain. And if you think about it, the impact, and that's why the bubbles are bigger, the impact will become much bigger if all of us become agile and not just ourselves. Because true business agility doesn't stop at the company front door. If you're agile and your partner is lean, doesn't fit. They have no idea how to deal with changing requirements. They are expecting fixed requirements. If you don't trust me, trust this guy. You might have heard of Jeff Sutherland. And I want to share with you an example here from the most disruptive company that I know. They took this ecosystem thinking to the next level. You know, we always talk about, since years, yet the end state of a possible truly agile organization is team of teams. Hire a 50-year-old appliances company, so they make dishwashers and washing machines and so on. They took it to the next level. What you can see here is each of these little boxes is a team, a micro-enterprise. Each of that micro-enterprise has its own balance sheet. So they earn their own salary. And of course, if you think about it, this is hardware, software, services, supply, maintenance, everything. One team is not enough. So those teams do interconnect to each other and create an even bigger bubble, the red bubble, where they build kind of an internal ecosystem. So what is interesting, if this case doesn't work, it will collapse. So this is the minimum viable governance of an organization. Now, do you need to do it this way? No, but we can get inspired from some principles. So what they do is, and this is also inspiring, they create a mutual contract across this different team of teams, those micro-enterprises, where they agree not just on how they collaborate, like a working agreement, they also agree on the cost, they need to pay their salaries and other investments. They agree on how they're going to share the wealth, profit sharing, and they create a shared purpose across all of those micro-enterprises. So very different. And to be honest, you would not expect that from in a Chinese culture. So very, very disruptive. Now this mutual contract, they update it every other month. It's like OKRs on steroids. Objectives, key results. Now what's fascinating, Haier is a 50 years old company, so that's not a startup. They have 80,000 employees, maybe more now, and they have undertaken the fourth big transformation. So it's not yet finished. And they're outperforming all of their competitors. So some commercial numbers here. They have an incredible growth. They have almost no bureaucracy. And what is interesting, 2 years ago, they opened up this internal ecosystem, and now the teams are allowed to partner up with any other company. And the other way around. So if you have a crazy idea, you could connect to this micro-enterprises, and you even might get funding by Haier. So quite cool. So let's do a reality check. So this is far, far away. Yeah? They have a massive investment, 50 years journey. What can we do? I would like to stick on these 3 questions or 3 challenges, and I will explain, give you then some real case examples around those questions. So let's imagine for a second, your whole company consists just of one Scrum team. Everything, all your departments. You're back to the roots, you're a startup again. So let's think about it for a second. Who in this Scrum team is accountable for suppliers? So if you like to join me on this little poll, just scan the QR code. And then maybe we can get up the results. Yeah, next slide. Yeah, they need to start it, sorry. Here we go. Can you try again? Now, hopefully it should work. Yeah, some of you think the product owner, some of you Scrum Master, some the whole Scrum team. So good news is there is a Scrum guide, and it's not defined. So you're all right. So we need to just, the Scrum guide just says self-organize. But the message that I wanted to, that you can take home with that exercise is, why the heck currently somebody else outside of the team is accountable for our partnership tools, service, third-party services, etc. So if you think about it, if we take DevOps to the next level, we become accountable and responsible also for our partners. Can we go back to the slides, please? So thank you. So here is an example from Scale Up, so no more a startup. They are around 1,000 employees. And they're on a mission to build the very first solar-powered car. Just solar-powered. And you can see it very small in the top right corner. They're still organized very traditional, as they called us. And we got a call from their CPO, Chief Procurement Officer. He said, well, we have prototypes, we have proven the concept, we have all the patents, but now we need to set up our supply chain, and I want to do it differently. First of all, we need to get speed. Time to market is key. And second, I want to set up a different kind of culture, different to the current culture in the automotive industry, where it's all about costs. It's a win-lose scenario. If you think about back to the one slide with the supply chain, everybody loses until the assembly company that makes a lot of profits. So he said, my vision from a procurement supply chain perspective is I want to become the best customer for our vendors. How cool is that? And he got me. So what we did, I said, well, the whole car, it's too complex. So we need to slice it. We need to select one system, one part of the car, and we decided for the body in white, the car structure. And we started quite simple. Said, well, let's set up a team, cross-functional, and that consisted of cost engineers, supply chain experts, procurement, R&D guys, but not end-to-end. There was nobody who could do the design of the tooling, who could do the supply chain, the industrialization, the making the tool, not just the tool, but also the product, and so forth. So we had conversations about that, and traditionally you need to know, they would set up such a project team, and they would source the next tier partner, which in this case would be a design partner. And then they would do the design, they would freeze it, and look for a partner that does the tooling. And then the tooling partner would then look for the industrialization, so the production line and so forth. And we said, well, that's not really agile. It'll take a lot of time, this waterfall process. And you already imagine what happens. We said, well, what if we become accountable not just for the design? I mean, in software, it's like, yeah, of course. But for them, it was like revolution. So we talked about what if we become responsible for the end-to-end for this product, so including the production and everything. And so we did. Obviously, one team is not enough. So we started to acquire and evaluate partners. You might hear that I'm not talking suppliers. You just need to supply. No, we meet on the same eye level. You're partners. You're at the same table all the time. Same dailies, same planning, everything. And for those partners, this was very new because they were used to get a spec and they deliver. So they ask us, where's the spec? Where's the CAD file, the 3D model? And we said, well, we have it, but it's still in development. Said, well, when will you be finished? Well, it might be never finished because we're constantly improving. And that was kind of, they were shocked and said that that's not how it works. You need to do a feature freeze. And so we had conversations with those partners and said, well, what if we can agree on a principle that we welcome change? And we had a long discussion about that, so the design will never be finished. So what's the consequence? So I'll give you an example. So this car structure, to really build it, it's steel, it's fixed materials. You need a mold. That's a huge press. And usually that's, they said, it's a $10 million investment. And to design and build just a tool, that's this press, it will take us 2 years. We said, well, we don't have the 2 years. And so around this principle, we welcome change. we asked them, they said, well, okay, we got it where you're going. We could use tooling from rapid prototyping. We can set it up tomorrow. And it's not for prototyping. We are talking about building a tooling, a production line. So we can use tooling from rapid prototyping. It costs almost nothing in comparison. But it won't last that long because of the materials and so on. And then we ask, okay, how long? Said, well, maximum a month. Said, super, we have a sprint length. So we can introduce a change every other month. So long story short, this team or team of teams became accountable end-to-end for their product. Their product was the car construction. Of course, they have dependencies to other tools. But they also became not just responsible for their product, but also for the tooling. So for the machine that builds the machine and everything else. So this then became a blueprint for all the other tools, other car parts, and an initial sourcing project turned into a whole transformation. And instead of having a supply chain, again, very waterfall, one supplier, next supplier, we had a team of teams where the company boundaries became fluid. It was no more important where you are employed. Of course, still a challenge from a contractual point of view, but we sorted this out, and then it's about value creation. I'll show here this example with hardware, because everybody else says, yeah, it's software and services, it's possible, I can see it, but we are different. Great. Next challenge, how can we select those partners in a more agile way, based on agile values? Alex Osterwalder, who invented the business model canvas, is also a Swiss guy. Don't know why, again. And I had a conversation with him and said, well, I love your work, but how do you? What's your recommendation to get key partners fast? I said, that's a huge challenge. So good news, we have solved it for you. But before that, I would like to ask you for the next question. If you have the browser open, it should still work. So please, if you could just switch to the next question and show the results on the screen again. So how do you select your partners today? Wow, some of you are fully involved. Awesome. Some are not involved. Some partially. Very good. So that's quite exceptional results. Usually, it's somebody else in the organization, and if it's a strategic partner, then that's, the middle managers look for the spotlight and, yeah, I need to be there, but not the people from the ground. But if you think about it, who are the experts? And also if we are accountable for not just the partner, but also for the relationship, for the product, for the service, for the component, whatever it is that we evaluate, shouldn't it be us that are involved in that? If you please go back to the screen. Thank you very much for taking part here. So what we have invented, that's now 9 years back, is an approach for strategic sourcing, finding new partners in an agile way. It's called Lean Agile Procurement, and this is a case here. We have plenty of cases in all kind of industries. This is a case here we got famous for. because we sourced an ERP system, enterprise resource whatsoever system, in just 2 days. Now the benchmark for doing something like that, that's super complex if you think about it. So the ERP is kind of the foundation of each company, you know, digitalization of all the processes and everything, and integrated in many, many surrounding systems usually. So the benchmark to do that in a traditional way is up to 12 months. So how the heck can we do it in 2 days? Well, how would we do it from an agile perspective? Well, what you should take away is just bring the right people together. That's a short version of lean agile procurement. So what we did, we set up a cross-functional team led by the business. In this case, it was head of finance. He became the product owner. We had people from HR, from procurement, from finance, accounting, IT, obviously, in this team. And this team run the sourcing process, but they did it applying Scrum, so to prepare, to down select a short list of 3 vendors in this case. And instead of just creating documents and tender documents that we send out and then we get proposals back, we invited the vendors for 2 days, 3 competitors simultaneously in the same room. And we asked them, can we please co-create not just your proposals, but the solution design, setting up the collaboration, negotiating the contract, and in parallel, by the way, we ask for the people that we might work together in delivery, and if they are there, we can run a proof of concept in parallel too. So, 3 competitors in the same room. I know it's weird, but we take psychological safety for real. So we ask the vendors, in what scenarios do you don't feel comfortable in the preparation already? And usually it's talking about commercials. They want to protect their intellectual properties. They don't want to talk about the contractual details in front of their competitors. And we respect that. So all these discussions are in private rooms. But the beauty of having all the 3 vendors there simultaneously is, even if we have a new information from the private room, we can go back, say, update, new information, please change your solution, whatsoever. What was fun here, the team selected vendor A, and they cherry-picked 1 single person from vendor B. You would never ever do that in a traditional evaluation, just sending back and forth documents. Of course, we can do that online. So this is a case with Roche, a pharmaceutical global player. We had 4 vendors, the big 4 consultancies in the same room virtually, more than 80 people in 5 Google Hangout sessions simultaneously. And what is cool about this story, we kicked off the whole session by creating a cross-company panel with their senior managers. So we asked them, you know, where do you see the trends for Roche in this context, what is important, and so on. That set the tone. As said, this also works in hardware. Just recently, we had in the biofuel industry a case here, finding a new partner. So always, it's not just about the evaluation, it's also about time to market, speed up, but also going into co-creation much faster. So this is not just an evaluation. We are assessing the people on one hand and their services, their products, but we are also going into co-creation of a solution design. So the partner starts even before we sign the contract, the partnership. So challenge number 3 is, how do we manage a partnership more agile? And therefore, I'd like to show you a short video. It's a parody, so don't take it too serious. But you might find some similarities. So if we can just start the video, please.
But I can't trust him. I feel like he doesn't respect or appreciate all the things I do for him.
What?
Hold on. Let's let her finish expressing how she feels.
Well, let's start by looking at the forecasts he provides me. They are extremely inaccurate. He knows. It's a never-ending headache when dealing with inventory and service levels, but he just doesn't care.
I get grief about my forecasts at every one of our meetings. Believe me, I wish I had time to provide her with the information she needs. But how about some appreciation for the revenue that I bring in, huh?
Well, how about showing some appreciation for what I do? You have no idea how complex it is to plan and manage new product introductions, distributions, procurement, and also delivering what you need so that you can focus on selling. All I'm asking for is a little more consideration, future warnings, and accurate forecasts.
I want this to work. You know that. I wouldn't be here if I didn't. We just want to make a little profit.
Yeah, so don't take that too serious, but there is some little truth in it if you think about it. So just one last poll here. So this is a word cloud. So what kind of similarities have you recognized in this video to your real business partnerships? You know, and let's see what comes up here. Yeah. Often it's more about solving problems than delivering value, right? Fight. It's boring. I don't hope so. Cooperative, yeah. Business. Tricky. Good looking. It would be nice if it's more of a friendship. Absolutely. Super. Thanks so much. We can go back to the slides. So what happens if we have developed psychological safety and if we have this friendship, even with externals? It's another story. It's crazy, you know, what can happen. Crazy shit can happen. Echo is one of the biggest manufacturers in agriculture, and they came to us and asked for a savings program. So how can we, you know, again, this cost focus. And we said, well, we don't do that. That's against our values. But if you're interested in innovation, we would be interested to support you. And they were like, oh, okay, we never thought it this way. So we want to hear more. And so we set up a cross-functional team, and that was not our idea. They came up with this crazy idea. They called it Agile Product Clinic. So what they did is they took a tractor into its pieces, this big hole. They invited internal marketing, product management, people from the line, people from maintenance, their current suppliers and competitors, and ask for, what are your ideas? Where can we use better materials, less components, other machines? How cool is that? And so again, going into collaboration and co-creation. Even more crazy is the case with BioNTech, Pfizer and Fosun. You might have heard of the development of the COVID-19 vaccines, which is complex. At the moment that they started, they had no idea if they're going to make it. But it's a multi-billion-dollar investment, multi-billion rubles. And so we had Ugur Sain, the CEO, at the World Agility Forum last year, and he spoke about how they approached it. And it goes back to some principles that we heard earlier with Hire. They said, well, if we don't know, why should we waste our time in contract negotiation about something that we might maybe never achieve? So they just agreed on a very simple governance, said, okay, we're going to agree on a cost sharing and a first definition of a potential profit sharing. And they just started. Multi-billion-dollar business. How cool is that? And he said this is the most successful project ever. And he was wondering why they haven't done that in the past in a similar way. So how to manage a partnership more agile? Well, we have all the ingredients. So instead of going through a waterfall kind of specification and contract negotiation and everything, why don't we just start? We might define a minimum viable governance, get the money off the table, and then let's see what we can deliver next in the next two weeks, like sprinting, developing the partnership more incremental. So to close, what's in it for we? So if you are a business leader, if you are an Agile coach, a Scrum Master, what can you do? Well, start to think bigger. Bigger than your team. Think in ecosystem. Could be your internal ecosystem across functions, across departments, but it could be even bigger across companies. Get in touch with your commercial people, or the other way around, get in touch with the Agile practice, because people like finance, procurement, sales, they face exactly the same challenges as we did in IT and software 20 years ago. So we need to invest in their capability building. And then the Agile adoption. So every time I get approached into a new Agile transformation, my first question is, who is your most important strategic partner? And are they part of the transformation as well? And so as a consultant, this is interesting because then your pie gets double the size. No, just a little joke. The numbers at the bottom are impressive. So everything we do in Agile is important. Collaboration, the values we deliver, and so on. But working with the commercial functions and roles has a direct impact. So in the private sector, it's up to 80% of the company's revenue is in their hand. We are involved in multi-billion ruble projects, and if they are faster, if they are successful, has a direct impact on the revenue. In the public sector, it's even bigger. One more thing. I know I run out of time. What is this ecosystem thing? I'm talking about it all the time. So traditionally, we have, a contract between parties. So me as the buyer, and there's the supplier, and we have one contract. If there are 3 parties or 2 suppliers, we have a contract with each. Now imagine we would all sit at the table, the same eye level, from the start. And instead of having point-to-point contracts, what if we would have a mutual contract with mutual objectives? How cool is that? It's not my idea, I stole it from Hire. And what we are currently doing, it's not yet published. We are developing the next canvas, a lean ecosystem canvas, with the ambition to co-create such a mutual ecosystem contract within hours and days instead of months and years. This is us, Lean Agile Procurement Alliance, if you want to know more about it. Thank you very much.
Поблагодарим Мирко за его блестящий доклад. Incredible speech. And now we have some time for questions. Друзья, у нас есть буквально пару минут на ответы на вопросы. Если у вас есть какие-то вопросы, пожалуйста, задавайте их. Также я напоминаю нашим зрителям, кто с нами в режиме онлайн, вы можете написать в чат. Да, пожалуйста, у вас есть вопрос вот там в зале.
Alexey Ionov is my name. I wanted to get back a little bit to your first example because actually I have an issue with that. You were saying that you have selected an ERP system within 2 days. Now, in my understanding, this kind of selection will be too much personality related, but you're selecting the system, not the person. Or maybe you won't have guarantees that this exact person will support the system you have selected. How do you solve that? Thank you.
That's a great question. So I could have a whole talk just about this example. In this case, we had a two-stage approach. So we selected the product first. That was part of the cross-functional team, the task of the cross-functional team. They had already a tendency. And then we invited solution providers. And each of the solution providers had also different modules and additional services and so on. So it was not just about the people that we selected, but I agree. It's in the end, it's so much more about the people, and it's also, from my experience, if you are about to deliver a complex case, whatever it is, this becomes a success criteria to become even more. So we had cases, and that's maybe a little outside of your question, where in the first hour, one of the vendors, not in this case, was disqualifying himself just because of the behaviors. And we,
Maybe his solution was good, maybe because it was just the person.
Exactly. And so we sent them home. Yeah. Why should we waste our time and their time? Yeah. Great question.
Можно по-русски задавать вопросы, ребят? Я буду переводить.
Hi, my name is Denis Petrenko. Thanks for your presentation, very great presentation. Actually, I had one question from the beginning of your presentation. It was how to resolve this issue connected with budgeting, with type of the contract between the members of this chain. And actually, you answered on this question at the last, but I didn't understand how you transfer the value. So the main participants who use suppliers has value in his head. It's car. You have some structure somehow distribute this value between all supply chain that they can feel that if they do their work in the team right, they get this part of value. So you practically resolve this issue or not?
Yes. Thank you for the great two questions. Immediately I forgot the first one, so I answered the second first. So the canvas that we have developed, we are currently testing it, and everything we do is agnostic because every case is different. So it depends very much on the culture, and you still could say we basically have a buyer-supplier relationship where we pay you as traditional, but we want to have more honesty on what are the effective costs, and the price is one argument, but it's not the argument. But in the sense of wealth sharing or profit sharing and so on, there are many ways how you can do it. What we have currently just tested as an Agile consultancy that we are on ourselves is we want to push a certain topic in Europe. And so we have started to connect with other consultancies. We put the purpose in the center of the canvas. And we said, look, for example, if we conduct trainings together, we have an ambition, a joint ambition of selling, I say something, 10 seats. And if we achieve 10 seats, everybody gets a certain amount of the revenue. If we sell 20 seats, the profit or the revenue share is higher, and so on. So then the conversation starts. So there are different ways to do it. What I like is just to create a win-win situation. Sometimes the vendor is not ready for that. They just want to get paid. And so we have to discuss about the risk sharing. If we take all the risk on the customer side, on the buyer side, then we don't expect a huge buffer on his side. So we have this conversation with them and say, look, we don't want to drop the price, but we are interested, what's your buffer? And they say, well, it's 20% or whatsoever. I say, well, look, but we are taking all the risk, so what can you do that you still feel comfortable? Regarding the budget, now I got the first question. We work with the constraints that we have. So I know very little companies that don't run budgets or beyond budgeting process or a rolling forecast. It's not yet common, so we work within a given budget or financial constraint we have. We start where we are. Yes?
Hello, my name is Victor. You made a strong focus on dividing lean thinking and agile thinking in the base of all your presentation. But when we talk about some big complex systems with lots of partners, it's not just about big potential revenues, it's exactly more about big changes of loss and big price of these losses. Do you think we need really to draw the line between them, or maybe it's more like hybrid system, because in hardware it's very important, how I see it?
Yeah, I think I'm not a lean expert, but in my very naive point of view, Agile builds on top of lean, okay? So what lean is perfect is efficiency, right? That's the core purpose of lean. While in Agile it's all about effectiveness, and so I think we need to appreciate what we have with lean if there is already lean, but the future is mass customization in hardware. So Haier has production lines with mass customization. Tesla has a production line where every model could be different. So every next car has another component. And that's no more lean, right? But on the other hand, we also want to lean in everything that we do. We don't want to create waste. So it's not gone, it's not bad. It's just a challenge shifted to how can we deal with all this uncertainty and complexity, and everything that helps from lean, we build on top of it. But the fixed mindset, it's a bad word, sorry to say that, but lean also tries to fix the scope one way or the other, and that's no more the case, right? It's in many, many cases. Hope we can have a beer and discuss more on it. Yeah.
Hello, Stepan Dolgin. I have a question about that network structure of Haier company. And I've noticed one thing, that usually big companies force the procurement process into one strict department or so, in order to mostly avoid the compliance risks. Yeah. So, and is there ways to, let's say, persuade the company heads that these risks can be mitigated if we divide the company into like smaller companies?
Yeah, the challenge is, great question, thank you. The challenge is, if you remember yourself, in software we had the same challenge, quality assurance used to be its own department, operations used to be its own department, project management and so forth. So it's the same story. Now, what's about the future of procurement? Well, I don't know in details about Haier. I'm going to visit them in May in China. But what I've heard and learned so far is that they have a micro-enterprise that is responsible for the governance and everything, but it's not behaving the way that we would think a procurement department does behave. Because its purpose is to enable and serve all the rest of the organization with the tools, the platform, the information they need. So it's more like a component team serving the rest of the company, and it could be education. So majority of their contracting is supported by a platform, applying smart contracts and so on. So the people do not need to care anymore what is left and right. It's just supported by the tool. And if it's really complex, I suppose that people from this micro-enterprise with the procurement experts would jump into this ecosystem and support them. But it's not that they take it over and do it for them. They do it with them. That's the big difference, like the quality assurance. It should become a capability. It's a long way to go.
Дорогие друзья, нам, к сожалению, нужно потихоньку завершать сессию вопросов, потому что совсем скоро в этом зале начнутся другие доклады. У нас есть время буквально еще, наверное, на один вопрос. Давайте его послушаем.
Thank you for your presentation. My name is Eugen. So in this shared partnership thing, how do you mitigate risks of partners leaving the alliance?
Leaving?
Leaving the alliance, the union.
Yeah. It's an interesting question because working a lot with procurement departments, they never think about the leaving part. And coming from a product angle, we always think in a product life cycle, and the partnership has a life cycle too, right? And once in a while, a partnership comes to an end. So what we do, similar to let's get the money off the table, this whole wealth share, cost share, whatsoever discussion. We have all these conversations about the potential future impediments, like we did a mistake, it's a wrong tool, it's a wrong partner, or we just, kind of like in a friendship, we just developed in different directions and we need to divorce. So we talk about that even in these 2 days that we had in the case. And it's interesting, then we add to the Agile contract several clauses, how to deal with it, right? How to mitigate those risks. But in the end, it's not about the contract, it's about the alignment and the conversation that we create with these conversations. Because it's a valid conversation, it's a valid risk, right? So it's a bit blurry, sorry for that, but I can give you, one example maybe. We had this conversation, if the partnership is awesome, they have to get a bonus. Money for nothing, you might have heard of that. I always challenge it. Say, okay, do the internals get a bonus too? No. Okay, then maybe we also skip that part. But if they are late, they need to pay a penalty. Okay, don't we pay the internals salary if we are late? No. Okay, then we need to skip that as well. What if things go really wrong? Do they then need to pay a penalty Well, it will be very hard to justify which vote it is. We will have to open a case and so on. So what I then also always ask, what's the value for the customer in all this escalation? Zero. So what we did is we added a clause. You don't have to, but it's kind of creative. We added a clause that both parties, because we are on the same eye level, can stop the relationship at no costs at any time. Ooh, the vendor can also stop, but they have to finish the sprint. I said, no, at any time. And it was once, several years back, an experiment. And what we have observed, usually it's like until the contract is signed, you have the full management attention, and then you have the signature, and then they are gone. Not in this case. They needed to care, and that was a nice benefit of it. But again, you don't have to, just a creative way to do it.
Друзья, небольшое еще объявление, наверное, для agile коучей, скрам-мастеров, кто, может быть, на жизнь этим зарабатывает, как я. Действительно, лаб это, по моему мнению, может быть серьезным следующим таким вот уровнем. И есть процедура, как стать консультантом, аккредитованным тренером. Я вот просто немножко скучаю, я единственный русскоязычный вот этот представитель сообщества. Кому интересно, есть на сайте описана процедура. Я могу рассказать. Давайте вместе будем нести добро в нашу страну в виде вот нового знания. Все.
Дорогие друзья, на этом мы завершим сегодняшнюю встречу. Все остальные вопросы вы сможете обсудить в режиме тет-а-тет на кофе-брейке. Также те, кто задавал вопросы в онлайне, могут получить на них ответы в онлайне. Не забывайте оставлять, пожалуйста, обратную связь по QR-коду, который вы видели на экране по вот этому. Это очень важно для нас. Спасибо всем, кто был сегодня с нами в зале. Спасибо, Mirko. Спасибо нашему генеральному партнеру Газпромбанку.